This chart shows economic growth climbing over the last few decades, but right alongside it, we see a sharp, diverging plunge. That descending line represents the self-reported well-being of Gen Z and millennials, who currently report the lowest life satisfaction of any living generation. This is more than a temporary dip in the national mood. The crisis is severe enough that the U.S. Surgeon General recently declared loneliness and social isolation a public health epidemic. Right now, about half of all American adults report experiencing it. The data defies our usual assumptions. We tend to picture the elderly as the most isolated demographic, but Harvard researchers found that the highest rates of frequent loneliness belong to 30 to 44-year-olds and young adults, while those 65 and older report the lowest rates. We are surrounded by more people, more content, and more resources than anyone before us. Yet an entire demographic walks through their daily lives feeling disconnected from the world and from each other. You might be familiar with this state. You hit your deadlines, you show up to morning meetings with a coffee in hand. On paper, you are performing exactly as expected, but inside, you are quietly cracking. It's a modern phenomenon known as quiet burnout. This goes beyond needing a long weekend. In psychology, it's called anhedonia. As we see here, anhedonia refers to the absolute absence of positive emotion. It is an emotional numbness where hobbies feel like chores, food tastes bland, and music becomes background noise. This nothingness suggests an internal reward system that has simply gone offline. Patients often describe it as if an ice cream scoop hollowed out their center, leaving them to watch life move past from behind a thick glass wall. To see why our reward soups are shutting down, we have to look at what we are feeding them. We are living through a super cycle of change. Between economic volatility and the rapid disruption of artificial intelligence, our nervous systems are being flooded with signals of fear and uncertainty. To cope with that deep uncertainty, we try to regain control through toxic productivity. We start filtering every action through a lens of usefulness, attempting to numb the stress by checking off tasks and achieving goals. Hustle culture reinforces this reflex. High-profile figures glorify extreme overwork, pushing the narrative that clocking 80 or 100 hours a week is the only valid path to success. But the biology disagrees. The World Health Organization officially classifies burnout as an occupational phenomenon, resulting directly from chronic, unmanaged workplace stress. Treating rest as laziness and calculating self-worth based entirely on daily output builds an unsustainable defense mechanism. Eventually, the mind breaks under its own weight. This breakdown is driven by a concept known as the hedonic treadmill. This diagram illustrates how humans have a natural happiness set point. When we experience a positive stimulus, like getting a bonus or buying a new car, we get a spike in joy. But we quickly adapt and our mood returns to a stable, neutral baseline. Our modern environment disrupts this balance. Constant digital stimulation, endless notifications, and the pursuit of online validation forces this baseline artificially higher. The stimuli remain the same size, but they no longer cross the threshold required to make us feel satisfied. We adapt to the constant noise. Our neurochemical pathways become so overstimulated that they physically desensitize. Normal rewards simply fail to register. This total desensitization is what we experience as anhedonia. It can be physical, where you no longer enjoy the warmth of the sun or a favorite meal. And it can be social, where conversations with close friends suddenly leave you feeling exhausted rather than fulfilled. In our desperate drive to consume more content and achieve more goals, we actively destroy the biological capacity to feel anything at all. Anhedonia is not permanent, but escaping it requires a counterintuitive approach. You cannot force yourself to be happy. Instead, you have to deliberately interrupt the downward loop and create the space for enjoyment to return. Psychologists recommend a practice called planting seeds. You engage in an activity you used to love, like drawing or playing music, for just 5 minutes. You do this without any expectation of actually enjoying it. You are simply laying the groundwork to retrain your brain's reward pathways. To halt toxic productivity, researchers suggest the 3M framework. This calendar grid maps it out. You schedule macro breaks, like a full day off each month, meso breaks, which are a couple of hours a week for a hobby, and micro breaks, taking just a few minutes a day to stretch or disconnect. If direct human interaction feels too overwhelming, you can practice passive socialization. Just go sit in a busy coffee shop or a public park. Being around others without the pressure to perform reminds your nervous system that connection has value. None of these actions will fix your life overnight, but these tiny, unoptimized moments serve as neurological circuit breakers. They prove to your brain that you are safe enough to step out of survival mode and feel again. We spend massive amounts of energy curating and broadcasting our lives for an online audience. We chase external markers of success, hoping the feeling of fulfillment will follow. But human happiness is lived primarily in ordinary, unoptimized moments. Protecting those moments requires active defense, developing emotional intelligence, and setting strict boundaries around your personal time are necessary shields against a world that demands constant output. Reclaiming your capacity for joy requires the intentional, quiet space that a world obsessed with output rarely provides. Success becomes secondary to the physical restoration of your ability to feel.